In a land where gods were as numerous as the stars, a single act of divine defiance ignited a battle for freedom. Moses, armed with faith and a divine mandate, stood before Pharaoh, challenging the might of Egypt to liberate a people bound in chains. This was the beginning of an epic saga, where the power of the one true God would be revealed against the backdrop of ancient splendor and tyranny. Israel once thrived in Egypt as Joseph found favor in the eyes of Pharaoh for his ability to interpret dreams. The Israelites prospered and multiplied. But, with Joseph's passing, an era of peace and mutual respect between the Israelites and Egyptians drew to a close as a new Pharaoh ascended the throne. The memory of Joseph, who once stood as a bridge between cultures under a previous reign that had respected him, and, by extension, his God, began to fade. The Israelites' unwavering faith in their singular, all-powerful God stood in defiance of Egypt's pantheon of gods, heralding a clash not just of cultures, but of divine wills. Thus, taskmasters were appointed, burdening the Israelites with cruel labor. They built storied cities for Pharaoh, enduring bitter lives under the whip's shadow, their spirit unbroken yet heavily tested by the harshness of their bondage. In a further attempt to suppress their numbers, Pharaoh commanded the Hebrew midwives to kill the newborn boys. But their fear of God outweighed the king's decree, and they preserved the lives of the infants. But Pharaoh's decree turned ruthless, ordering all newborn Hebrew boys to be cast into the Nile. Amidst the despair, a beacon of hope is born from the same Nile. Moses is found and raised by Pharaoh's daughter. Growing within the heart of Egypt, Moses' journey from prince to liberator begins when an act of defiance sends him fleeing to Midian, where he encounters God in the burning bush, setting the stage for Israel's deliverance. During the time of Pharaoh, the Egyptians worshipped many gods reflecting natural and societal elements. Each god played a role in the Egyptians' understanding of the world, from creation to the afterlife, deeply influencing their culture and daily life. But in Exodus 12 verse 12, the one and only God says, "Against all the gods of Egypt, I will execute judgment, declaring, I am the Lord." Following Moses' awe-inspiring encounter with the burning bush, God commands him and his brother Aaron on a monumental mission to confront Pharaoh and liberate the Israelites from the chains of Egyptian bondage. God began the first step of deliverance, commanding Moses and Aaron to tell Pharaoh to let his people go out of the land. Facing Pharaoh's defiance, Moses and Aaron displayed God's power as Aaron's staff became a serpent, swallowing those of the Egyptian magicians. Yet Pharaoh's heart stayed hardened. As the dawn broke on accursed Egypt, the first plague was unleashed upon the land. Aaron, under God's command, stretched his hand over the waters of the Nile, and all turned to blood. A direct affront to Hapi, the god of the Nile, whose life-giving waters now spelled death. The Egyptians scrambled for clean water, their economy teetering as the lifeline of their agriculture and daily life was choked. In a relentless demonstration of divine might, the second plague unfolded as Aaron extended his hand, summoning a horde of frogs that swarmed across Egypt, a direct challenge to Heket, the frog-headed goddess of fertility and birth. The frogs associated with the flooding of the Nile during which silts were deposited, symbolizing abundance turned into chaos as the once cherished frogs leaped into homes, beds, and kneading troughs, disrupting the economy and sanctity of Egyptian homes. Unleashing the third and fourth plagues, God demonstrated his dominion over earth and air. Aaron struck the dust, and it became lice, infesting man and beast, a direct affront to Geb, the god of the earth. The Egyptians' magicians failed to replicate this, declaring it the finger of God, yet Pharaoh's heart remained hard. Following this, swarms of flies overwhelmed Egypt, sparing only Goshen where the Israelites lived. This plague mocked Khepri, the god of creation and movement of the sun, who was depicted as a scarab beetle. In a further display of his unmatched sovereignty, God then sent a devastating pestilence upon Egypt's livestock. This fifth plague struck down horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, and sheep, pillars of the Egyptian economy. This plague directly challenged Hathor, goddess of love and protection, often depicted as a cow, and Apis, the bull deity symbolized as a living incarnation of Ptah, and later associated with Osiris, signifying fertility and strength. Escalating his divine judgments, God instructed Moses and Aaron to take soot from a furnace and toss it into the air in Pharaoh's presence, which became fine dust over all of Egypt, causing painful boils to break out on humans and animals alike. This sixth plague targeted their religious and medical practices, challenging deities such as Sekhmet, the warrior goddess of healing, and Imhotep, the god of medicine and wisdom. The boils rendered the Egyptian magicians powerless, unable to stand before Moses due to their afflictions, symbolizing the complete impotence of Egypt's gods and the magician's magic against the will of the God of Israel. As Moses stood again before Pharaoh, saying, "Thus saith the Lord of the Hebrews, let my people go that they may serve me." His obstinacy persisted despite this clear demonstration of divine power. Moses warned Pharaoh, offering a chance for Egypt's servants and livestock to be brought to shelter. Yet, the heart of Pharaoh remained unmoved. The seventh plague was one of unprecedented magnitude, a hailstorm so fierce that Egypt had never seen its like before. This divine assault targeted Nut, the sky goddess, and Seth, the god of storms and disorder, showcasing God's command over the elements in a display that dwarfed any natural phenomenon attributed to these deities. Hail mixed with fire rained down, devastating the lands, annihilating crops, and decimating livestock in the fields. In the wake of destruction, Pharaoh momentarily relented, acknowledging his sin and the righteousness of God. Yet his repentance was short-lived. As soon as the threat subsided, his heart hardened once more, reneging on his promise to let the Israelites go. Divine confrontation continued as God sent Moses to Pharaoh once more, this time to bring about the eighth plague, locusts. An east wind brought locusts that covered the land, devouring what little remained after the hail. Pharaoh, in desperation, summoned Moses and Aaron, begging for relief from this curse. Yet, even as Moses prayed to God and a west wind swept the locusts away, Pharaoh's heart hardened once again, breaking his promise to release the Israelites. This cycle of plagues highlighted not just the physical dominance of the God of Israel over Egypt, but also a psychological warfare against Pharaoh's pride and the religious foundation of Egypt. In an awe-inspiring demonstration of his control over the cosmos, God then enveloped Egypt in a darkness so profound it could be felt, a darkness for 3 days that no light could penetrate, representing the complete overthrow of light and order, realms over which the Egyptian deity Ra presided. Yet, in Goshen, where the Israelites lived, there was light. Pharaoh's response to this penultimate plague was to bargain with Moses, allowing the people to go but attempting to impose conditions on their worship and livestock. Moses, steadfast in God's command for total freedom, refused. Pharaoh, consumed by rage and defiance, then issued a dire warning to Moses, threatening his life should he dare to see Pharaoh's face again. Moses agreed, foretelling that Pharaoh would indeed never see his face again, setting the stage for the final, devastating act of divine judgment. In Exodus chapter 11, Moses solemnly warns Pharaoh of the final, most severe plague. The death of all firstborn in Egypt, God instructs the Israelites to mark their doorposts with lamb's blood, introducing the Passover, to ensure the angel of death passes over their homes. In the stillness of midnight, the Lord unleashed a devastating blow, claiming the lives of every firstborn across Egypt. From the grandeur of Pharaoh's palace to the humblest cells, grief pierced the night, leaving no household untouched by loss, except those covered by the blood. Overwhelmed by despair, Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron, urgently commanding the Israelites to depart, taking their flocks and herds. Egypt, stricken with fear of further divine wrath, implored them to leave swiftly. In the dramatic escape of the Israelites, led by Moses and Aaron from the clutches of Egyptian bondage, each plague unfolds as a potent testament to the one true God's unrivaled supremacy, overshadowing the powerless pantheon of Egypt's gods. This saga of liberation, marked by 10 divine acts, is not just a historical event, but a thematic symphony of praise to the Creator, who exists beyond time and space, the architect of all existence, emphasizing his role as the creator of man and the universe. His is the power that fashioned the heavens and the earth, commanding nature and nations alike, inviting all creation into a chorus of everlasting worship and honoring him as the ultimate authority, whose glory transcends time.